Despite the lack of meat in the dish, the dinner with your friend has gone pretty well. Luckily, you had bought all those herbs and spice. It really helped to keep it from being too bland. Not to mention, spending quality time with us three was always a treat. Luckily, you had managed to make it back before the moon showed up, which meant you had avoided any and all lectures from the townspeople. Last night, when you had returned home, you noticed that some blood had gotten onto your clothes from when you were tending to the wolf. You were lucky enough that no one had seen you come back from your trip, or else they would have most definitely questioned why you had blood stain all over you. Currently, you were on your way to the creek to wash the stains out. You had made sure to keep out of sight again to avoid any suspicion. When you eventually got to the lake, you knelt down beside the water, rolling up your sleeve, and began cleaning your dirty clothes. Even with the use of soap, the stain would take a long time to rub out. Then again, you had never got a blood stain on your clothes. Maybe you have to throw these out. Maybe you just need to let them soak in the water for a while. You sighed, your arms itching from the cruel task. You really didn't want to throw this out. The thought of having to save up and buy new clothes only made you scrub harder, especially when there was nothing wrong with this one. Well, minus the blood stains. You were so busy wrestling with the stain and grumbling to yourself that you didn't notice the figure approaching you. You heard a huff coming from behind and whipped around in fright. Thought that soon disappeared when your eyes landed on the wolf from yesterday. It was sitting directly behind you, red eyes staring into your own with annoyance. Its leg was miraculously held up. Not even a scar was left in its wake, which seemed impossible to you, but you were glad it was doing better. "Oh, it's you again. What are you doing here? Isn't it dangerous to be so close to a town full of humans?" You questioned, and the wolf trudged forward. You noticed it had something in his mouth. The wolf placed the cloth from your cloak onto the ground in front of you. The same cloth you had torn up and used to stop the bleeding on its leg like yesterday. It sat behind and watched your reaction. You breathed out in awe. It was almost like the wolf was trying to show you gratitude. Either it was very smart, or... You picked up the cloth. It was coated in blood stains, of course. You had no use for these anymore. They were ruined, and you had already thrown that cloak away, but the gesture was enough to make this ruined rag hold so much meaning. Your hand clenched around the material, and you smiled softly. It was incredible. It had come back just for this. You had been sure you'd never seen the wolf again. "Thank you." You finally spoke, and the wolf turned his head away with a huff. Wolves were a very prideful bunch from what little you knew about them, so it was no doubt that it had probably taken a lot from him to do, to swallow his pride and come thank the human who had saved his life. You turned back to your clothes, and the wolf came and sat behind you. Watching you as you cleaned, you felt powerful to have a wolf obediently sitting by your side. Not that you admitted it out loud, but you had always wanted a pet. "Are you sure you can stay here? It's quite dangerous for your kind." You spoke, glancing over at the wolf to see him growl in protest. Looks like he was staying for a while. You smiled and happily sat in silence with the wolf. You took note of the way its tail slightly swayed behind it. You giggled at the sign of contentment from it. Had you really created a bond with the wolf of all things? It seemed so far-fetched, and yet here you were. Your eyes widened as you recalled your previous thought about the wolf. Curiosity got the better of you, and without thinking you blurted out, "Are you a werewolf?" The wolf tensed for a split second, but its shock was soon replaced with a glare at you. You didn't feel threatened. It didn't seem like it was going to hurt you or that it was really mad at you for your question. You held up your hand in the same way you had done when you first encountered. I don't mind if you are. you defended yourself. Though it didn't seem to believe you. Humans were known for holding a deep hatred for werewolf. Though, the way you were looking at him told him that you were being honest with him. You had also saved his life yesterday, so he really had no reason to not believe you. He sighed through his nose. Your eyes widened as the fur on its body began to disappear, its features slowly becoming more human-like, though his ears, tail, and feet stayed the same. Luckily, when it transformed, he was wearing clothes. You might have died on the spot if he had been naked. You're smarter than you look, he grumbled. He looked slightly irritated as you stared at him in awe. Meeting a wolf was one thing, but a werewolf? You had only ever heard of them. Honestly, you were sure they were just myth. But now, there was one sitting right in front of you. Oh, wow! You gasped. Your eyes straight up to his ears, they twitched at the top of his head. His tail still absent-mindedly swaying behind him. You suppressed a squeal. It was adorable, even with his piercing red eyes glaring at you. He caught you gushing over his featuring and a grumble escaped his lips. As soon as he felt his cheeks eating up, he turned his face away from you. Dumb as human, he grumbled under his teeth, covering his embarrassment with annoyance. Why the hell did his cheeks suddenly feel so hot anyway? You sat back, squishing closer to him as your curiosity piqued. This was like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to meet a werewolf. You were still taking it all in. You had to stop yourself from reaching up and petting his big fluffy ears. So, is your leg doing okay? You tilted your head, though your eyes were currently following his squishing tail. Yeah, I got healed when I returned back to my pack, he told you, pausing for a second as he shoved his hand into his pocket of his green jacket. You wanted to ask how it held up so quickly. That should be impossible. Did wolves have some sort of sacred healing technique? Or did their race naturally heal fast? Werewolves were said to be much stronger than humans. Maybe their bodies were able to heal fast. You had so many questions, but before you could ask them, he spoke up again. Thank you, he grumbled out. You could tell by his expression alone that this was hard for him to say. He looked annoyed, embarrassed, but mostly irritated. Wolves were a really prideful bunch after all. It must have been hard for him to have a human of all things see him in such a weak state, let alone help him and then have to thank them in return. This was actually the first time in his life he had tried so hard to swallow his pride. The reason behind that? Even if he didn't want to admit, he saved his life. If you hadn't shown up, he would have no doubt died in that spot. So, even if his ego was taking a hit, he still wanted to thank you. He hadn't expected a human of all things to save his life. All night, he had been thinking about you. You hadn't changed his perspective on human, but you had changed his perspective on you. When he first met you, he thought you were going to finish him off, but you proved him wrong. Don't worry, I'd be a monster if I let you die there, you replied, and he almost scoffed at you. You sounded so naive, like you had no idea of what human really did to his kind. How did you get hurt in the first place? You added, human, was his quick reply. But upon seeing your curious state, he sighed and added, Hunter caught up with me. I was trying to gather food, and the bastard came out of nowhere. And one got a good hit on me with his words. I managed to get away and hide. Then you showed up. He snarled, his eyes glaring at the lake. The sudden change in mood scared you. He looked really pissed, but you knew that anger was not directed at you. It must have been pretty traumatic for him. He almost died all alone by a tree. It must have been scary to think he might die like that and never see his loved one again. You assumed that his fear might have blown out and turned into anger now that he has a day to process the event. Oh, you replied. You weren't sure what to say. You were human too. Would he really take comfort from the same kind that had tried to kill him yesterday? I'm sorry. Yeah, you should be. You also caused shit ton of problem for me, he muttered bitterly, and your jaw opened. Why was he suddenly blaming you? Was this really coming from the same guy who was just thanking you for saving his life a second ago? What? I helped you. Yeah. Then I went back to the pack reeking of human and wearing a cloth that also reeked of human. I had to listen to a mouthful for my shitty old lady. Despite his word, his tone lacked any real bite to it. It seemed like he was just trying to blame me for something so he could get a slider of his pride back. You rolled your eyes and ignored the comment. Whatever, I'm just glad you're still alive. Your word must have knocked him speechless because he didn't reply. He watched you as you went back to scrubbing your clothes. How could a human be so nice? It went against everything he knew about humans. All he knew was that they were greedy, murderers. So how come you weren't? His eyes turned into slits as he glared at the ground. He didn't understand you and it pissed him off. The only reason you were still alive right now was that you had saved his life. You confused him so much. You made him wonder if you were just doing all of that to gain something. You made no sense in his eyes, and it made him want to punch the first tree he could find. He didn't like to feel so conflicted. He heard you groaning as you vigorously rubbed the material in your hand. He rolled his eyes. Idiot! All you're doing is rubbing the stain in some more. That's not how you get blood out. Well, then how do you get blood out? I've never had this problem before. You snapped back and threw the cloth back into the water. The wolf came back to you, looking over your shoulder to inspect the damage. You felt your heart stop. He was so close. You could feel his breath against your skin. He was almost pressed right up against your back. It smelled like burnt firewood. It was nice. You smiled. They're ruined. You snapped from a thought, feeling embarrassing, indulging in the proximity. Huh? Your clothes. They're ruined. For good. Oh. Really? You pouted, looking down at them with longing eyes. It was one of your favorite outfits, and now they were wrecked. Yeah, you shouldn't have rubbed the blood stains. You let out a sigh and sat back, giving up the garment and staring out at the beautiful lake. It connected to the ocean and left a slightly salty smell in the air. It sparkled under the sun. If you were alone right now, you might have gone for a swim. The hell you look so sad for? Just have someone in your town make some more, he said. Yeah, but that costs money and I don't have that much money. The wolf stared at you with a clueless look. Money? He questioned, and you turned your head to him, your lips parting in shock. Did he not know what was money? Yeah, you use it to pay for things like clothes and food. You give money in exchange for people, goods, and services. The wolf stared at you like you had just spouted another head. He blinked. He didn't understand the concept. You were suddenly curious as to how his society worked. How do wolves pay for things? He scoffed. We don't. As a pack, we all have our designated jobs. We help and look out for each other. The only thing we ask in return is loyalty. You smiled as his reply. That sounds kinda nice, actually. The wolf sat down next to you again, and there was a moment of silence as you both listened to the calming sound of running water. It felt like you two were the only one in the world. For a moment, you felt like you had no worries. It was so peaceful. How did you find me? You suddenly asked, your eyes sparkling with curiosity. He scoffed at your stupid question. Idiot, wolf can track scent. I had your clothes so I know what you smell like. I just followed it. I also figured you live in a nerdy town since you had a bag full of food and shit with you yesterday. You also weren't a kid, like a traveler, so it wasn't hard to guess. He replied. Though he sounded irritated, he had to explain something so obvious to you. Maybe he didn't realize that Humans weren't as good at striking as wolves were. You nodded, humbly in reply. Wolves are good at striking skills. I don't really know much about werewolf. I've never seen one, since all the hunters chased them away from our town and stuff. To be honest, I thought you guys were just a myth. You chuckled, but stopped when you so easily pulled back into a snarl. Maybe it wasn't smart to talk about the hunter around him. It seemed to anger him, though. A lot seemed to anger him. At least you weren't one of them. They don't chase us away. We just want nothing to do with your kind. He snarled at you and raised an eyebrow. Then how come you come back to see me? He tenses, his teeth clenching as his cheeks tinted red. You're different. You saved my fucking life and... You could feel the irritation rolling off him. Thought you weren't sure what was rolling him so much. You what? You heard him growl. It wasn't him, not you. You could tell that much since his eyes were focused on the lake in front of you two. I couldn't stop thinking about you, he admitted, through gritted teeth, his hands clenching in frustration. You're the first human I've met who I didn't want to rip apart. The first stupid, naive human who actually showed kindness. You helped me. You saved my fucking life, and I hate that I wanted to see you again so badly. I hate that I couldn't stop myself from coming here. He exhaled through his nose, trying to calm himself down. I hate that I'm curious about you enough to want to get to know you. Your lips parted in shock. He looked so conflicted about not hating you. He wanted to hate you, but you were the reason he was still breathing right now, so how could he? You could have finished him off. He was helpless in that moment, yet you decided to save him. He can't hate you, no matter what your race is. Well, for the record, I wanted to see you again too. You smiled at him, and he turned to you. It was now his turn to be shocked. I mean, it's not every day you get to have your very own wolf friend. You laugh. He grumbled something about you being naive again, but you chose to keep ignoring his insults. Don't get used to it. If we keep hanging around each other, someone's going to get hurt. If your town find out, then some hunter will try to kill me. He smirked. Or, I killed them first. But either way, it only ended badly, so this is the last time we'll see each other. Your eyebrow knitted together. Who cares about them? Those hunters always ruin everything. I won't let them ruin this too. They have no part of this, and if they want to try to get involved, then they have to go through me first. You huffed, clenching your hand in front of you. The wolf was surprised to hear you speaking about your own kind with such a bitter voice. You really were a weird human. He had never met anyone like you. You seemed to like him over your own people. Or at least you were willing to choose him over them. You seemed to disagree with what they did. He never would have guessed a human like you could exist. Once he got over his initial shock, a smirk settled into his lips. You're not so bad for a human. You rolled your eyes. Oh, thanks, you replied, not sure whether that was a compliment or an insult. There was a small pause before the wolf beside you stood up. You panicked, thinking he was going to leave, but he walked toward the lake. It's too open in here. What? You followed his suit and stood up. He sighed in irritation before turning to you. If you want to meet up again, then it can't be here. It's too open. A bright smile made its way to your face. Your eyes lit up at the thought of being able to see him again, and it made him grumble. You were way too happy over something so dumb. There's always that forest spot we met in. It was pretty closed off. I don't think anyone will find us there. The wolf grinded his teeth together. It all felt so stupid. Why was he even agreeing to this? He was a wolf. You were human. It was so dumb to try and secretly meet up. For what reason were you two deciding to do this? He only came to thank you so he could peacefully sleep at night without feeling guilty about not showing gratitude. So he could keep his pride, so he could stop thinking of you every second of this damn day. Sure, it had only been one day since you had saved him, but he was quick to anger. Yet here he was, making plans to see you again. You, a human, a species he had grown up hating all his life. It was so confusing to him. He didn't understand why he was so drawn to you, but it pissed him off more than ever. Sure, whatever. So why was he still agreeing to all of this? Surely, it was going to end badly. In fact, there was no doubt it would. I bring food for you too. You say you were out hunting yesterday, but you got hurt before you could find food, right? He did his best to not look at you. Something about that stupid smile of yours made him feel funny. He didn't like it. What the hell would you do that? I'm not weak, you know. I can take care of myself. Yeah? But is it so wrong to make sure my friend is well fed? I can't feel that hunting for food every day is easy. He backfired and he shrugged. It's not hard for me since I'm good at it. I'm still bringing food. You stood your ground, crossing your arm over your chest for extra emphasis that you weren't going to budge. The wolf groaned and threw his head back. Whatever. Same time tomorrow. Don't be late. I'm not going to wait for you. He yelled at you before turning and stomping off. You ran after him. Wait! I never got your name. My name is Listener. What's yours? His footstep paused and he looked at you over his shoulder. It's Bakugo.
A noche de sola